Hey, what's up guys? Guardian here, coming to you guys with Altmile Tuesday, the day that I make up to make myself feel better for not doing this on Monday. But yeah, I didn't feel like doing it yesterday. The weather was quite humid, and also I just wasn't in the zone really to do a video, so wanted to wait till today. So Tuesday it is. But yeah, it's been 2 weeks I think since I did the mail opening, and yeah, I thought I'd do my deck profile by now. So yeah, I have seen a lot of variants of this deck online. Quite a few different builds and choices that I've seen, but overall, I quite like what I've seen. And I'm quite happy with what I have decided to go with at the end of the day. So without further ado, we'll get stuck into the deck, and I'll show you guys what I'm playing. So, to start with, for grade 3s, we are playing the 4 copies of Aerial Divine Knight Altmile. So, this beast, wow. This guy's really good. So not only does he give you your grade 2's 10,000 power, he gives him 5,000 shield, but he also gives him +1 critical as long as you got an Altmile in your soul. And all you need to do is make sure your damage is all face down, which sounds simple enough, right? But the one thing I found interesting with this deck is that in order to get all your counterblasts face down, all of your damage face down, you actually need to play around it a little bit and sort of pre-plan how you're going to be using your skills that turn. But the other element of this card that I like is that you also need to plan this around during your opponent's turn, because if you take an attack from the opponent, you're also turning this skill offline, and your units will lose all the power and shield, before you've had the chance to intercept with them, probably. So you also need to bear in mind factors like when you take an attack, or when you decide to intercept with your rear guards to get the value out of their shield boosts as well. So little factors like that is what makes this deck rather interesting to me, and it's not as straightforward as like all the strategies we've had with like Blaster Blade, for example, and like Ganslot, even when the Alfred lineups. So I quite like the direction that Altmile's taken with this like manipulation of the damage zone and stuff like that, which is pretty cool. The other cool thing about this Altmile is that he has the ability to resurrect from the drop zone as well, which is, I'm pretty sure Grand Blue won't mind us stealing that, yoinking that ability from them, but it is stuck to grade 2 though. You can only bring a grade 2 back from the drop zone, so it's kind of still in theme, kind of, but it's still a bit weird to have Resurrection and Royal Paladin, but it does offer us this unique building playstyle now where we can play like one-off techs that we know we can bring back later on, which is actually pretty cool when you think about it. So yeah, you're definitely going to play 4 of these Altmiles. It's obviously the win condition of the deck and how you're planning to win the game. But we do play the 3 copies of the trial deck Altmile, Blue Sky Knight Altmile. So I still think he's worth playing at 3. I've seen different ratios. I've seen decks where they don't play any of this guy at all, which I can understand it, but at the same time, I don't like it. So yeah. And I've also seen decks with the play 2 of it, which I can understand to make extra room for grade 2s. But to me, I feel like 3 is the best route, because I like the fact that this guy's good going first when you don't already set up the conditions you need to meet for the aerial skill. So this guy's a good way to rush the opponent on the grade 3 turn, since you can go search 2 grade 2s from your deck. So you're deck thinning a bit more than what aerial can do. And you're also getting those 2 grade 2s to hand, which means you can use things like Livarot, where they can only be placed from hand to use their skills to help build your field up as well. So that's pretty cool there. It also makes more sense to me to play a few more Altmiles, just because with us having cards like Suleiman in the deck and also Sicilus in the grade 1s, it kind of makes sense to me to keep the Altmile number to a high enough number so that you have a good chance to actually hit those cards and actually get those pluses and stuff like that. So yeah. So to me, I feel like 3 is the more comfortable number that I like, but I can understand, the other ratios as well. That's completely fine, but this is more up to you. It's completely up to you with what you feel like going with. I don't really think there's a right or wrong decision with it, but it's more got to do with player preference, I think. But for me, I prefer 3. So next we have the grade 2s, which is going to be the big portion of this deck. So we have 4 copies of Suleiman. So this guy's really, really cool. I like the way he's designed. So when he's placed on Van, you look at top 7 for an Altmile, call it to rear. And his second skill is Van or rear. When he attacks, you can Soul Blast, return a rear guard from another column to your hand, and he gets 5k. So, of course, the interaction here is that the idea is to ride him, call an Altmile from the deck, hopefully, from the top 7, get an attack off with him, and then attack with the Suleiman, and then bounce it back to your hand. So not only do you get an extra attack that turn, but you're also securing the grade 3 ride as well, which is really, really nice. I love the way this guy is designed, and I just wanted to play 4 of it because I want it to go off as much as possible. And yeah. Now, for the next grade 2, this might be a bit controversial. I decided to go with only 3 Livarot. Now, I understand that everyone is creaming over this card and how good it is, but honestly, I think he's okay at 3, just because, like I said, he can only be used when you play him from hand, which is kind of restrictive when you're focusing on Aerial Divine Knight, which can only call from drop zone and deck. You kind of start running out of space to actually call stuff, and it gets a bit awkward. But I will say that Livarot is really, really nice, especially in combination with the Blue Sky Knight Altmile, since that grade 3 turn, you could go search for the Livarot, call it to the field from your hand, and then go get another search from the deck. But overall, just the utter toolbox aspect of Livarot is fantastic. I definitely think you should play at least 3. You can play 4 if you want to. Again, player preference. It's up to you on that point, but I feel like 3 is much more... It just makes more sense to me, if you know what I mean. So yeah. So speaking of a 3 of, I'm also playing 3 copies of Starlight Violinist. So this is probably, if not the most important grade 2 in your deck. So this guy makes it so that if you have no face-up card in your damage zone, you can... Essentially, all your grade 2s get boost, and they can intercept from the back row, which is really, really cool. So this is what's going to cause a lot of your columns to get really high numbers, because not only is Aerial Divine Knight pumping all of your grade 2s up by 10k, but now they're also able to boost other grade 2s with that 10k power. So yeah, you're going to get some pretty cool numbers towards the late stages of the game. And not to mention they're all critical as well, which is really, really deadly. So the next unit, of course, is going to be 2 copies of Akane. Now, this card has got a lot more attraction as of late. Of course, it was always popular among Soul Saver decks, but it's actually really good for Altmile because it goes search you a unit that gives you Soul Charge. And Soul in this deck is really important. So, yeah, I feel like 2 of her is fine though, because she can activate her skill from anywhere. She doesn't care where she's placed from. She just needs to be placed on Vanoria. So I feel like 2 is fine because you could just bring it back from the drop zone with the Altmile if you want to go search for more Pongals for that extra soul charge. That's up to you. But I feel like 2 is where I'm at with her. I feel like more than 2 is just overdoing it and unnecessary, really. But the next card we have is 1 copy of Blaster Blade. So yes, Blaster Blade is sticking among the Royal Paladins here. Now the one thing I will say about Blaster Blade is that it's pretty costly, because you do have to give a Counter Blast and a Soul Blast, which, like I said already, Soul is pretty important for the deck. But it's really nice to have that ability to retire, because with our rear guards having that power and critical pressure, we really don't want to be wasting that on a rear guard attack, right? So to me, having that ability to retire, to get rid of pesky rear guards from I don't know, Choto, for example, from Narukami, that's just an example I could think of. A rear guard like that is pretty strong, and you want to get rid of something like that. So having the ability to get rid of it, but also maintain those 3 attacks that you've got for the turn to go to the opponent's Vanguard, I think that's pretty vital. So I like having the toolbox accessibility for Blaster Blade in this deck, and I quite like the placing that he has. He's not massively important, but he's more like a toolbox card for you to answer a problem. So that's pretty nice. Then we have the 1 copy of Lucus, which is the 10k vanilla. I like him over Caractacus, which is the 9k common from set 3, I believe. He gets 10k shield if you have 4 or more damage, and then obviously with Aerial it'll be a 20k shield. But I like Lucas more because he has the 10k value on his shield at all times. So he has a bit more flexibility when it comes to the earlier game, which in my opinion I think is the more important part of it, to where you can actually guard attacks a bit easier. But also he is a 10k, which you wouldn't think is that more important than a 9k, but it actually does, because it means that your magic numbers are going to be just that little bit bigger to actually create those magic numbers in the first place. So yeah, I do prefer the flexibility of Lucas more than something like Caractacus, but if you want to play Caractacus instead, that's up to you. But yeah, I just prefer the 10k vanilla. I think it just is more suiting for the deck and has a bit more flexibility overall. And also, I was lucky enough to actually pull a triple rare version of this from one of my trial decks, so that's also pretty nice as well. So, for the remaining grade 2s, we have one copy of Hopesong Angel. This is, of course, to go with our Violinist. Now, I do feel like one of it is fine because it's kind of acting like a fourth copy of Violinist in that respect. But it's a way for us to extend upon our counterblast for the turn. Essentially, if you're trying to get all your damage face down, you need to make sure you've got the right toolkit in order to do so, and you've got enough counterblasts to actually use to get all of those damage face down. So I feel like the one Hopesong is pretty nice. Again, more toolbox, more ways of getting the damage face down and making sure that your skills are online and stuff like that. So yeah, and also it searches out a vital piece that you do need for the deck, so that's pretty cool. And then the final grade 2 is going to be the one copy of Tion. Now, I went for Tion just because it provides a really large power number. It's a 9k, but the skill says that she gets 10k power during your turn, which is already good, so that's 19k. And with conjunction with the Violinist, it's going to be a booster, easily. So, the restriction that it has where it says it cannot attack or be attacked if you have 5 or less units doesn't really come up because you're planning only to use this as a booster. And then if you bear into mind Aerial Divine Knight skill giving an extra 10k, that's a 29k booster, which is like, that's just mad. So I do want to play one of this. Again, it's another one of those one-offs where you can just bring it back from the drop zone because of Aerial Divine Knight. So I quite like that. But yeah, overall, these are the grade 2s I decided to go with. By all means, like, I'd probably say that these 4 are sort of like the ones that you could mess around with if you don't like some of them, but I do feel like 2 Akane is about right, and then you could, like, put the 4th Livarot in if you want to put a 4th one in by taking something else out. That's up to you. But yeah, that's what I decided to do there. So that is that. So now we have the lesser half of the deck, where it's not as important, but it's still vital since we do need to ride. We have the grade 1s being 4 copies of Sicilus, the grade 3 Searcher, of course. I do hope these are kept in track by Bushiroad and hope these don't get too expensive, but I think they're already expensive, so we've already kind of lost that battle. But yeah, these are just really nice. It's even better for like this deck because since you are planning to keep your damage zone face down, this is more or less a 13k booster at all times, or attacker. You could use this in the early game and rush the opponent a little bit, so that's pretty cool there. So yeah, 4 copies of Sicilus, very nice. And to go with them, we have the 4 copies of Pongal. Now, the reason we're playing the 4 Pongal with 2 Akane is because Pongal is just good on his own. We don't need Akane to make this card good. It gets better because we have a way to search it. That's why Pongal is so nice. But yeah, we can just get the extra soul whenever we need it and generate those resources, and Akane can just plus us at the same time by getting that Pongal, which is really cool. So the last card in the deck is going to be 2 copies of Lucius. So Lucius, I decided to go with because I was testing out some other grade ones like Marin, for example, or even Philax, but I felt like those were pretty unnecessary, really. Like, we don't really need the Philax because, I mean, Suleiman kind of already does the same thing, and we don't really need more soul blasting cards. And when I was trying Marin out, Marin just did not come up at all because I just didn't need the counterblast for her, and also it was kind of awkward to place her, stuff like that. So yeah, I feel like Lucus here is a lot better, just because when you ride your grade 3 Vanguard, you can put it into the soul, draw a card, then call a card from your hand. So it's an alternative way for you to gain soul, but it's not as good as something like Pongal, for example, because you do have to place this on the field, and then you have to wait a turn, and then you have to ride a Vanguard. So it's a lot gradually slower than Pongal. Pongal just needs to be placed with another unit, and that's it. So yeah, I think that speaks for itself more or less. But I quite like playing the 4 and the 2 with that. So 10 grade 1s overall is where I'm at with this deck, and I feel like that's good enough. Just in order to make room for everything else in the deck. It's mainly the grade 2s that's taking up the space, let's be honest. So, last but not least, oh, by the way, I have these Tion sleeves, which I actually got these a while ago, but I thought, hey, good timing for Altmile release, right, in Standard, so that's pretty cool. But anyway, for the grade 0s, we have the 1 copy of Millius, which is going to be the starter of choice, and of course we have the Quick Shield addition to the game now, which is very nice, which I'll go over quickly. So the quick shield, it does come up sometimes where you do want to use it for the protection to stop an attack that you couldn't have previously before the quick shield mechanic. But it's also nice just to have the extra card in hand. You know, it's something to discard, which, you know, you could discard it from Altmile skill, which is pretty cool. So yeah, I quite like it, but it'll be interesting to see if they do anything else with it in the future. So we'll have to see. But very nice addition to the game for when you're going second. But for the triggers overall, we are playing a very standard build of the deck. We're playing 8 criticals with 4 Epona and 4 Llew. I decided to go for Llew just because he's a knight and he, you know, kind of sticks within the theme of the deck at least. But that is a choice you can go with there. You could also just stick with the Flogel that you got from the trial deck. That's up to you. And then we have the 4 draw RPGs, which these are getting reprinted. Well, you already got reprinted in the trial deck, so you should already have access to these. But they're getting reprinted in the Festival Collection, and they're also getting reprinted in the Majesty Lord Blaster set. So we're going to have a lot of Royal Paladin draw RPGs floating about, so these shouldn't be hard to get at all. But I do feel like the PGs are important to play right now because Force decks are just getting a lot of support lately, and they're just really, really powerful. So I feel like the Perfect Guards are a bit more important right now than the Sentinel crits. Although you could maybe put one in the deck if you want to have like an extra crit in the lineup to have a bit more pressure, but that's up to you. And then we have the 4 healing Pegasus to wrap the deck up. And Pegasus is pretty cool. You know, it's an Altmile card, so it fits the theme. But yeah, that's going to be it for the deck. Like I said, the one thing I like about this deck as well is it's quite flexible with the marker. Like, going between Force 1 and Force 2 is completely depending on where you're at with the game. Like, if your opponent's on a lower damage count, I'd probably recommend Force 2. Just so you can start pressuring them with those high crits. But if your opponent's at a high damage count, then you might as well just go for the Force 1 because you already have the crit access from the Aerial Divine Knight. So having the extra power will just mean so that you can close the game state off a lot quicker and actually win the game. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, that's going to be it for the deck. I hope you guys enjoyed. It's a bit longer than usual, of course, since it's the first version of this deck on the channel. But yeah, I am actually really enjoying Altmile. It's a nice different take on Royal Paladin overall, you know, considering we've been sticking to the Blaster Blade formula for quite a long time now. You know, Blaster Blade's still in the deck, but he's more of like a toolbox card, like I said, so that's pretty cool. But anyway, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like the video if you liked it. Comment down below, tell me what you think. And tell me your builds, like your ideas with like the grade 2 lineups and stuff like that. Oh, by the way, before I forget, actually, we did have a little package over here of grade 2s that you could try out before I end this video. So I almost forgot about this. So, some other grade 2s you could try is, of course, we have Livarot here with the 4th copy. We have Baron here, which you could try. I didn't like this because it kind of just... It just felt awkward to play this. I don't know. I didn't really like it. But you can try that. We have Lamric, of course. This is very popular amongst a lot of lists that I've seen. So that's another choice you got there because you can just eat up all of your counterblasts if you want to. So that's that. There's Caractacus there, the alternative big shield grade 2. We have Galatine, who's just like an alternative to the vanilla, doesn't really matter. And then we've got the meme, Tanner and Belk. So I wouldn't consider these at all. These are terrible, but I think it's funny, the fact that you can actually resurrect one of the pair from the drop zone by intercepting with it. I mean, it's funny. I don't know. I always like looking back at those 2 cards because I think they're just not that good overall. But yeah, they can be utilized in funny ways, I feel. But I wouldn't recommend them. Anyway, I'm going to end the video there. Sorry for that little end bit, but hopefully those are some other options that you could think about as well. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you guys in the next one. This is Guardian, signing out.